Welcome back, movie junkies. It's Twin Flicks here, always celebrating the best in cinema, and today is no exception. We had the pleasure of interviewing actor turned acting coach Tony O'Dell. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it should. He co-starred in The Karate Kid Parts 1 and 2 as part of Cobra Kai's gang. He was also in one of my personal favorite 80s horror movies, Chopping Mall. But he's probably best known for his portrayal of Alan on the 80s hit sitcom Head of the Class. So Simon sat down with him and he went over everything from his career to sitting next to Elizabeth Taylor during her own private Oscar party. He shared a lot about Pat Morita with filming Karate Kid Parts 1 and 2 and how he showed us a scrapbook that he gave him after the shoot wrapped. And a lot of other different things. We dive in deep with this one and we had a blast doing it. So without further ado, here is our interview with Tony O'Dell. All right, and let's begin in 3, 2, 1.
How you doing?
I've been doing pretty good. You know, it's funny because my twin brother Paul and I, we grew up watching Head of the Class.
Well, wait. So where is Paul?
Oh, he ended up not feeling good. So
Oh.
yeah, he not sick, but he ended up getting like a bad headache
Yeah, I was gonna say not anything that we're familiar
No.
with up lately.
No, but as I was saying, we're huge fans of Head of the Class, of course.
Oh.
And you know, your character's definitely was one of our favorites watching it. And about
Even though a lot of people thought he was a jerk.
well, you know, there was a couple episodes where you could see that, but I always related to him as like the Alex P. Keaton of Head of the Class. That's how we always interpreted him.
Which, interestingly enough, I was up for that role.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Really?
I was up for the role of Alex P. Keaton. I auditioned for it twice, actually. I went on it and had a callback.
Uh-huh.
And then that was the end of that. And then, interestingly enough, this audition rolled around, and I was like, "Well, that's interesting because this is very similar to Alex P. Keaton."
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, there are always those social media fans or not fans who have a few times referred to me as the Alex P. Keaton knockoff. Hey, you know what?
If it
It
works.
gave me a job for 5 years. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It shouldn't matter. And
you know,
know,
but it's interesting because there were a lot of people who, saw Alan that way, but in the same respect, and if you really just understood not only Alan, but the other characters in the
Mhm.
show, they were all geniuses in their own right. But the thing that they all had kind of working against them was they were all just socially inept. So
Yeah.
the things he said, he didn't necessarily mean to be mean or, or rude.
yeah,
He
it
just
was,
didn't know any better.
yeah. He's just socially awkward, and
Exactly.
he means well, but what he says often
It comes out
doesn't
wrong.
translate
Like
that
I
way.
remember there was a time I said to Mr. Moore, I can tell that you have a lot of experience in your life. And Mr.
Yeah.
Moore said, well, thank you, Alan. He goes, I can tell from all the lines in your face.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was just him. That was Alan.
yeah. So how much of Alan was you in real life, or were you and Alan completely?
Well, fortunately, I was never that socially inept that I made comments like that.
Yeah.
I was very different from Alan in probably almost every respect.
Okay. Yeah, it was funny doing research before this. I came across an article in like '87, I think, and it said that Tony O'Dell is just like Alan Pincard on the Head of the Class, and I was like, well, I don't know. I see you on Instagram and social media and stuff, and you don't act anything like him. But it was just
Yeah, no, I certainly wasn't really. I mean, I was a little pretty naive growing up, but I never, definitely naive because I was raised in a very, very, Italian Catholic family. My real name is Anthony dell'Aquila.
Mhm.
Parents are raised in New York, grandparents from Italy. I was a very naive kid, but I never said things quite the way Alan did.
Sure, yeah.
Raised in Pasadena, my political views are pretty much very opposite of Alan's.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had his locker like lined with Ronald Reagan,
Yeah.
who I did think was a really good president, but yeah, we pretty much oppose each other in politics.
Roku, on their Roku channel, they have like all 5 seasons, and so like 4 months ago or so, we were like, hey, this is on, we got to watch this, and so we were watching it all 5 seasons. Now being 30 years later or so, it's interesting when you grow up, when you're a kid and you look at it completely different than when you are when you're an adult.
And the show started in 1986.
86.
I was 26 playing 15, 16.
Yeah, that was a common thread in the 80s, though. A lot of
and I'm actually one of the oldest guys to ever play a teenager on television.
Wow.
In all of television, because when I finished that show at 31, playing 17 or 18 when we graduated.
Wow.
And I'm older than Scott Baio and Willie Ames and Luke Perry, all those guys. I'm older than all of them. It's kind of just been my thing for, in my career.
Now Karate Kid, that was in 85 or 86, I think. Or was that before Head of the Class?
No, we actually shot Karate Kid in 83.
83, okay. It came out in
Karate
84.
Kid 1.
Mm-hmm.
We did Karate Kid 1. I think it might have gotten released in 84. Because after Karate Kid 1, I did a B horror film classic, which is on Amazon Prime, called Chopping Mall.
Yeah, Chopping Mall. We know that well.
It is pretty much just what the title says. It's a chopping mall.
They came out.
And there I got to play a very, very nerdy character named Ferdy Mizell. But anyways, if there was Chopping Mall in like 84, 85, then we went back and did Karate Kid 2, which we were only in the beginning of Karate Kid 2, so that was a fairly short shoot.
Yeah. So you just
and then I started one right after the class in 86. So I was just like boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 86 to 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 91.
Yeah.
I like to call this the house that Head of the Class built.
Well deserved. Yeah. So with the Karate Kid 1, John Avildsen,
yeah.
Avildsen, that's it. I always get cross-tongue.
It's not. It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, I know. Directing Rocky, an Oscar-winning picture. What was it like working with him? Working with someone, was it intimidating? Working with someone of his caliber?
It was. We didn't really know at the time the impact that Karate Kid was gonna have. We just didn't. We knew we were part of something great, especially because John Avildsen was the director. Yeah. Knowing that he had just come off of Rocky, and we were all of us 5 guys were kind of hired separately. So when we finally all got a chance to get together for, first and second time and talking about the excitement of the script and what the script looked like and the fact that the film was being directed by John Avildsen, we knew we were part of something great.
Yeah.
And we knew we had a great director and a great cinematographer, Jimmy Crabe.
Mm-hmm.
We knew it was something great. We knew it was really good.
Yeah.
We just didn't quite know the impact that it would have.
Especially at that time.
And interestingly enough, especially at that time, you don't have social media and anything else to refer to.
Yeah.
But we all went to Westwood for the premiere.
Mm.
And John Avildsen and the 5 of us guys all snuck in the back of the theater in Westwood. And it was just absolutely packed.
Yeah,
parents,
I can imagine.
kids. It was just packed. And the crowd was pretty into the movie the whole entire time. And we were pretty, we're watching the movie for the first time and seeing the reaction of the crowd. So we were just like pretty much in awe and stoked.
I can imagine.
And then at some point at the very end, when Ralph kicks him and Billy goes down, or I should say Johnny, people literally jumped up out of their seats in the theater and jumped up on their seats, and people were going nuts. And John Avildsen looked at us and said, "Boys, we have ourselves a hit."
Yeah.
And then from that moment on, I get goosebumps all the time just
Yeah,
talking about it.
Yeah, you know, that movie just kind of came out of nowhere, and once it hit theaters, like you said, people were lined up to see it.
You know, as you get older, and I know that you know this, as you get older, you really appreciate things so much differently than now looking back. When I was, at the time, I was a kid. I was 23. Of course, I was playing 16. Also the oldest Cobra Kai. But when you look back and now to realize what a special gift Karate Kid was to me, not only for the movie itself and the impact that it's had on the fans, but then also to get a chance for Ralph and Billy to do Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Which has now been a huge thing for YouTube Red, and for us to be able to go back and reprieve our roles, especially for me, it was a big deal because I had 2 lines in the movie, which that's another thing on social media I get a lot of flack for. A lot of fans will like write on I think I read somebody say something on Twitter, you're not a Cobra Kai, you didn't have any lines, which actually I did. One, I'm wearing a skeleton outfit, so you can't tell. The other one was up at the fence when I say I thought they broke up.
Hey, Johnny, forget it, man.
The camera was on Billy.
Who told you, man? Johnny? Hey, man, I thought they broke up. He did.
So it's just like, I was kind of like what they referred to as the silent Cobra Kai. And interestingly enough, I was actually the last one added because John Avildsen had only picked 4 and they were only going to have 4.
Oh.
And then I was brought in to audition for him, and John Avildsen said, I like you a lot. And we were only going to have 4 Cobra Kais, and we have our 4. But I'm going to have you be the 5th, and you're going to be the one who is kind of like the tag along, and you're going to be there with all the guys all the time. They're all going to get paid the same. You're going to be there. You're going to have 2 lines, but you're going to be there, and you're going to be one of the Cobra Kais. It was great, but in Cobra Kai, those guys really did me justice because they gave me some great lines in Cobra Kai, and really gave Jimmy a character. He's married, has a kid.
Yeah, had a little bar fight scene there.
Nice little
episode.
Nice little bar fight scene. In fact, it was really funny because I was like, you guys, I did head of the class and other shows after this. I haven't been fighting all along.
Kind of out of practice.
I don't have my fighting skills anymore. And they're like, okay, well, our stunt double, your stunt double will show you what to do. And if you can get it by the time we shoot, maybe we'll have you do it and then have him do it again so we can use both in editing. Well, by the time I was so fired up and I was like, I'm doing all this and getting so into it that by the time it came to shooting, that they were like, we don't need your stunt double to step in. You're fine.
Yeah, that's great.
So that was really, really cool. I was so pumped. And, I actually added that little bit after I hit him. I looked down at my hands like, I still got it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Was that in the script or was that improvised or?
It was not. It was not. I just was thinking about Jimmy and the character, and also, it relates back to Tony, myself, in terms of doing this for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, wouldn't it be great? Jimmy's a married man. he hasn't done this in years. He gets together with the guys, but they don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
He hasn't done this in 25, 30 years. So wouldn't it be funny to throw a punch and the guy gets hit and be like,
Whoa.
wow, I still got it.
Yeah, that was a great
and I
moment.
threw it in and they were like, that was perfect. And they left it, which was cool. Yeah.
And how much how much typically are you allowed to improvise in movies? Like for Chopping Mall or the first two Karate Kids, were you allowed to improvise much in those?
In
Don't
Karate
like it.
Kid, I don't think that, from what I can remember, not so much. I mean, it was, it was a big studio picture.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Weintraub, producer, John Avildsen, director. You kind of walk the line, you kind of do what you're supposed to do. And, if John did step in, I don't remember him ever stepping in and saying, just go at it. Mm-hmm. Something comes out, whatever, improvise. Might have been a little bit more of that in Chopping Mall. Definitely not much of that in Head of the Class either.
Okay.
I mean, we were in front of a live audience, so.
Mm-hmm. What is that like, being in a live audience? I know you've done other TV shows. You've done Otherworld and other sitcoms, a couple episodes, but
Yeah.
you ever get used to looking out and you see all these people looking at you? And
The thought of having a sitcom was terrifying.
Mm.
Just terrifying. I'm like, well, gosh, what if you forget your lines and the whole crowd's there or whatever? And, in the beginning, it's a little bit nervous, and sometimes you think you're going to die out there. It's just your adrenaline's going, and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's like, okay, you're going up the front part of a ride at Magic Mountain.
yeah.
And then you just get to the top and you look down, and it's just, it's one of the most exhilarating things.
Mm-hmm.
And, at first you might think, gee, are the words even going to come out? But what you come to find out is the audience is there. They're there to have a good time. Mm-hmm. They're there to laugh. And they're really there supporting you.
Yeah.
So I think any kind of nerves or whatever you have, after a while, you just have the best time, because when you come out and you take your bows at the beginning of the show and
Mm-hmm.
they introduce you to the audience, everyone is just having a blast. And they got the warm-up guy and he's making them crack up, and everyone's having just such a blast that you really just relax.
That's
and
great.
You really just have a good time. And once in a while you get in your head a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, whoa, I'm on the
Mm-hmm.
tightrope here,
Yeah.
But you get through it.
Yeah.
And they can always stop and restart. That's the beauty of it. They can also go, cut, all right, let's pick up and go back.
Yeah. Do you prefer a live audience as opposed to a production
I know, like you mentioned, Otherworld.
Yeah, like
Otherworld or Cobra Kai or one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
They're both just such different animals in terms of pacing and everything. I typically myself love more like, your half-hour, 1-hour film stuff. Like when I did like Simon and Simon, Murder,
Mm-hmm.
She Wrote, Airwolf, all Dynasty, all that stuff. I like the time that you get to kind of just explore and have the time. It just feels more natural to me. The acting for me is more natural.
Yeah.
Where in sitcom, things are a little bit more, maybe in Head of the Class, things were a little bit more heightened. Something like 2.5 Men was a very chill kind of sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally like the process of film more.
Okay. Yeah.
But audiences are fun. It's just, they're both, I guess they're both great in their own way.
Yeah. I remember watching an interview with Ted Danson. He was doing Cheers, and he said that was the greatest job he ever did.
The nerves that plague most people
Mm-hmm.
when they first start out doing, Broadway, a stage play or sitcom, eventually realize that you settle in.
Yeah.
You settle in and you eventually get over all that. I'll use the word mishigas. You get over all that stuff, and then you just, you run with it.
Yeah. Well, watching Head of the Class, it looks like you guys really enjoyed being on that show. You guys seemed to really connect with one another. Was it like that off screen as well?
It was. I mean, I remember we all used to, in fact, the restaurant's still there in Studio City called La Loggia, Italian restaurant, still there. But we used to all literally go for lunch. So when it was lunchtime, here go the original cast was 7 of us. We didn't do it as much when they added more and there were 10 of us or 11 of us. It started getting much bigger.
Yeah.
But when it was just the original cast, the 7 of us, of course we'd come walking in and everyone would be like, oh, it's the entire classroom from Head of the Class. And that was fun. That was great. But yeah, we were really close, and we're still very close. I don't know if you've seen where 4 or 5 of us got together.
Yeah.
We actually did, because Kimberly Russell, who plays Sarah, her mom had passed away and she was leaving the next day to go back east for that. So we just kind of got together just to kind of like take her to lunch and spread a little love her way.
Yeah.
We ended up having just a great lunch. We always have so much to talk about and reminisce about. I mean, 5 years and 114 shows.
Did you guys go back to the same restaurant, or was this a different restaurant?
No, we actually went to a different restaurant.
Okay.
We went to a different restaurant. It's funny because that one was pitched, but we had already kind of made the plans to go to that restaurant. So we were like, okay, let's just stick with that. But we still talk constantly. Like Kimberly and I were texting yesterday. Christine and I texted 2 days ago. I texted Robin yesterday because a fan did that incredible montage of Robin and I supposedly having a relationship on the show, and or Alan and Darlene's relationship, and I was pretty blown away by that.
You really deserve each other.
It was pretty touching, and because they actually edited that from about 4 or 5 different episodes to put that entire montage together. And then I ended up sending it to Robin, and Robin was like, wow. I'm like, yeah, fans do some pretty cool things,
Yeah, well, it shows the fans are still out there.
They are.
It's like, you guys have your relationship on screen and off screen, but you also bring that relationship to the audience at home.
Right.
And a lot of memorable scenes in that show, just good stuff. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, I think maybe the end of the 3rd season, they got rid of some of the actors. The one who played Maria, and then Janice and Geraldo.
Yeah.
What happened with that? I always wondered that. Was that a choice for them, or?
From what I could tell, or from what I knew, they just didn't feel, for whatever reason, that those characters were serving the same purpose that they were before. I think in the 3rd season, Jawaharlal had, I think he didn't have as much of an accent. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I know specifically with the character Janice, who was played by Tanis Vallely, she was growing up.
Yeah.
And the joke of there being this little 12 or 13-year-old in a classroom calling us all num-nums was gone. She still looked younger than us, but she was getting taller and she was growing. And I kind of felt like they just felt like the joke was over. You know, she had grown up and it wasn't as funny. You know, you never know. You hear little things here and there, but it was a bummer. It was a bummer for the cast because we were so close. But double-edged sword, you kind of are really happy to find out that you made the cut.
Yeah.
I remember actually when that went down, and the executive producer, Rich Eustace, called me at my apartment at the time. And I was on the phone with him and I was like, yeah, hi, Rich. And I knew that those three had already been told they were gone.
Oh, wow.
And my phone rings now and it's Rich Eustace.
Now your heart's pounding.
Heart's totally pounding. And I'm like, hey, Rich. And he's like, hey, how you doing? Are you enjoying your summer? And I'm like, yeah, it's great. And he's like, well, good. Well, I'm calling to just say that we're looking forward to seeing you in August, and we're really excited about the 4th season. And I was like, oh.
Now you can breathe.
I was like, oh, thank God. He's like, what do you mean? And I go, Rich, I kind of heard that there were a few cast members that weren't going to be with us. Was that true? And he's like, yeah, no, it's true, Tony. He goes, there's a few cast members that we didn't invite back, but no. He goes, no, you're Alan. Come on.
No one can replace you.
You're our clean-cut, Argyle sweater, tie-wearing Republican. We need you. You're our straight guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool.
You know, and some of those, I guess, Tanis, she became a casting director.
Yes, Tanis is a casting director.
Yeah, and I always forget her name. The girl who played Maria.
Leslie Vega.
Yeah, she was in Sopranos and did some other noteworthy shows too. And of course,
and she also, I know she does. She's pretty big in real estate as well.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
And then Brian Robbins and Dan Schneider, of course, they went on to do in Nickelodeon and that stuff.
And Dan is actually working on, I guess, developing some new things. And Brian's president of Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So he's okay. I certainly am doing as much as I want to.
That's
but,
good.
you know, as you know, I got into coaching as well.
Yeah.
And coaching young actors at home and on set. So that's just something that kind of evolved. I was on the set in 1997 of a show called For Your Love, doing a voiceover as an actor. And the producer of the show was Frank Pace, who was the producer of Head of the Class.
Yeah.
And Frank walked up to me after I did the voiceover and said, hey, you know, you're coaching some friends at home. And I said, yeah, I help friends out at home and they're going on auditions as well. And he said, we might be looking for a coach on the set. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah, let me think about it. So he said, let me introduce you to Yvette Lee Bowser, who is a phenomenal creator. Living Single, For Your Love. I think she does Dear White People. She created that show. So he introduced me to Yvette and she was like, great. And he called me and I took the gig. And, you know, it just came around at the right time because I was kind of tired of auditioning at the time, you know, and a lot of actors go through that period where
get a little burnt out.
You get burnt out. I mean, I'd been acting, through grammar school for fun and through high school for fun, but I got in it professionally when I was 18. Now, it's no big deal to the kids I coach now who get in it when they're 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And by the time they're 14, they have full resumes.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
the kids I coach now on Disney Channel on Sydney to the Max, because I'm the coach on Sydney to the Max right now. I mean, these kids are 13 and 14 years old, and they all go have full resumes. Ava Kolker has been working since she's 6 on Girl Meets World.
Man, you know, it's so different from when you began acting. You know,
but for me, still, I started when I was 18, which is still fairly young, out of high school. I've now been acting and been a SAG member for 43 years.
Wow.
It's kind of, you know, it's a big deal. It's something I'm proud of. I don't know if I'm going to do it as long as Betty White. Yeah, I just say to myself, as long as I can, you know, whether it's acting or it's coaching. Now, coaching at home here, that's something that I can do until I'm 80.
Yeah.
You know, any of the clients that I coach, if they want to come over and coach before they have an audition, I can sit on my couch, and that's just an hour or an hour and a half, and I can handle that. It's the going, as an actor or as a coach, it's going to the set and doing a 10 or 12 hour day.
Yeah.
That gets to be more difficult.
Now, you said you did some voice acting. How much voice acting have you done in your career?
Quite a bit. When I was actually at the same time, right before I got Karate Kid in 83, I believe in 82, I got a series called the Scooby-Doo Puppy Hour.
Yeah.
And it was Scooby-Doo, and then the Puppy's Further Adventures was the back half hour. And in that series, believe it or not, was Corey Feldman, Nancy McKeon, and a few others that I can't remember. But I played the boy Tommy who owned the puppy. So that was kind of like the beginning of my voiceover career. I got into Head of the Class. After Head of the Class, I did a bunch of guest spots. And then I got into actual voiceover, did, you know, voiceover for Corona Light and just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
While I was doing For Your Love, they needed a baby to do some baby crying because Holly Robinson Peete and her James Lesureur's characters were having a baby, and they needed someone to occasionally make the sound of the baby crying from the crib. So I came home and I was like fooling around with it. And okay, like, what did Bob Bergen teach me in his class about how to make certain sounds? And I went to set the next day and I was fooling around with it. And the director stopped and goes, where's that baby crying come? Who's doing that? And they go, it's Odell. And they go, you're doing it for the run through. So of course, run through comes and I start with my, and they said, you're going to be the baby for all of the episodes. And I came home and I'm thinking, wow, I never would have thought that I'm a 42-year-old man and I'm getting paid to do baby cries. But hey, and I think actually that's really, you know, just to add a little bit into the acting world, I think that that's one of the biggest things I tell so many of the actors I coach, which is do everything you can.
Yeah.
Throw as much up against the wall as you possibly can. Because I get some actors who are like, I really just want to be a dramatic actor in movies. And I really just want to do this. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, you can do that. But you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And I was always the kind of guy that if I really had the opportunity to try something, I was like, okay, well, I'll try and throw some air through my nose and make baby. I'll see if they bite.
Yeah, you always want to mix it up. You always want to do a bit of everything because you never know what job offer is going to come to you.
Yeah, and I tell them, I go get versed in, you know, learn dance, learn singing, but learn certain skills on the side, you know, learn sign language, learn how to speak a language. I mean, I speak Spanish. I was raised hearing Italian, so I speak Spanish, and I speak a lot of other little bits of other languages as well. That's just kind of my thing.
Yeah.
But I just think the more that you can add to yourself, it's not only great for life, but there's a lot more you can use in your acting skills.
Yeah. And, when someone's looking over your resume and they see, this guy has something that these other guys don't, you're the one that's going to be hired.
Yeah.
And, now you're a dialect coach as well, right?
Not dialect.
Oh, dialect.
So dialect, there's dialect and dialogue. A dialect coach would specifically be somebody who teaches accents.
Okay.
And that's something that I will do if a client comes to me and they need something that's fairly broad. They just want kind of like a basic British accent or something. If they start getting into, okay, no, we want it to be Upper Manchester, or we want it to be, Cockney. Yeah, I can do enough of it a little bit here and there, but I'm not going to take away somebody else's job who really specializes in that.
Sure. Okay.
A dialogue coach is somebody who basically does just that. They go to the set and make sure that not only is everybody saying the dialogue correctly in terms of the words, if there's any words there that are getting mispronounced, but also they make sure that the cast knows their dialogue.
Yeah.
For me, I've kind of parlayed into dialogue acting coach because I've had so much of an acting background and I'm hired so much to be an acting coach. I just kind of use both at work. Not only am I an acting coach, but part of my job is to go into hair and makeup on shoot mornings and make sure the cast knows their lines before they show up on set.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're both in trouble.
And since you're an acting coach, they know you as well. Instead of some stranger telling you, no, you need to do it this way. So
Correct.
They have more of a relationship with you. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, they know I've been there, done that. And they also know that I've also been in their shoes in terms of understanding the pressure. These kids are 13 years old and, they look at a 44-page script and they've got lines on 26 pages of it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how is a 12 or 13-year-old doing that? And then they have to go to school has to be worked into those hours on the set. And then they'll just turn around and say to me, oh, yeah, I got to go back to class. I have an exam.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow.
It's crazy how busy these kids are. I mean, you're like,
they're doing stuff that a lot of adults could not handle.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people get burned out so easily doing that. And then there's these kids that, they have more energy, of course, but still.
But it becomes commonplace for them. They just, okay. Yeah. I go to set. I can shoot for like 5 hours of the day. And then there has to be 3 hours of school somewhere in there, unless they have hours banked, and that's a whole nother topic.
I wanted to kind of go backwards a little bit. How did you begin acting? Was there a moment where you're like, that's what I want to do? I want to be an actor. Was there a movie that inspired you, or an actor?
No, and it's interesting because I don't think that the reasons why I got into acting were the same reasons that I stayed in acting. When I was about 9 years old, my parents came to me and said there was a letter that came, and it came from an agency, and someone had referred them to me and wanted to know if I wanted to come in and do commercials. And I was like, well, who? And they're like, well, we don't know. We just know that someone referred these people, and we got this letter from this agency, and they want to see you, and they want you to come in and possibly go out for commercials. And I was like, well, I want to do commercials. Because I had already, like at the age of 5, I went to the local park and I participated in something on stage, and we're going to pick you as being the kid who throws confetti on everybody. So I was like, well, sure, I get to be a big ham and throw confetti on everybody.
How cool is that?
And when I got opportunities in school and they're like, hey, we need David for David and Goliath. I want to be David, so I did that in grammar school. So I was already kind of doing plays just for the fun of it. I thought it was fun to be on stage and do that. And so my parents didn't let me, they said, no, it's not something we can do at this time. And I said, okay. But it kind of stuck in the back of my mind, and I still continue to do plays. I did plays in high school. And then when I was 16, I went to a theater in Pasadena. And a friend of mine, she took me to go see Annie Get Your Gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching these people on stage, and I'm thinking, well, I've already been doing plays and stuff my whole life, or so far in grammar school and high school. And I'm thinking, these people are doing it professionally. And I was at a place in high school where I didn't really know what I wanted to do professionally. I thought about being a special education teacher. I thought about being a doctor, but that was too much school.
10 years of school.
I went home and I told my mom that I really wanted to pursue acting, and she wasn't big on it. But I said, if I take my money and put myself through a summer session at the American Academy, could I do? And she said, your money, you do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and then I continued to get involved with that theater. And I asked somebody for a list of agents, and he gave me one. His daughter was the one who replaced Andrea McCardle in Annie back in 1976, 75, 76.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally sent 4 resumes and four pictures and resumes out to 4 agencies that I picked on that list of agents. I did know that one of them was the biggest agent in the industry for kids. Her daughter was Lonnie O'Grady, who played Mary in 8 is Enough.
Okay. You were in that show, weren't you? Were you in one of those episodes?
I was in 8 is Enough. Yeah, I was in 3 episodes of 8 is Enough, and I played Tommy Bradford's buddy and I was in his band.
Okay. Yeah.
So, which, by the way, Eric Stoltz and I were both in Tommy's graduating class.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, my parents kind of saw me just doing this thing, and the next thing you know is Mary Grady brought me in and she signed me.
So you were doing these plays in your school, and you saw the stage play, and you're like, I'm doing that. I can do this for money. I mean, people can do this for money. I can make a living out of this.
Right.
And yeah.
Now, granted, I thought it was just all fun and games.
Mm-hmm.
You go, you do TV, it's exciting, you make money. But then as the roles progressed, I was like, oh, well, now you're going to guest star. We want you to go up for a guest starring role in Simon and Simon. Oh, now you got to audition for the main guest lead in Airwolf. The responsibility got bigger and bigger. Then I was like, oh, this isn't just easy. It's not just fun and games.
It's work.
It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure. It's also a lot of fun. But, there are times where it got difficult as time went on, and I thought, this is not fun and games anymore, and this isn't as easy as I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, did you think maybe try to do something else? Or
I did think, I just don't know if I want to always have this level of, I don't know if I loved it as much. And I thought, well, and the reason why was because it wasn't just fun and games, and I was realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
But then what I realized was I still did love the process of acting.
Okay.
What acting is, fleshing out a story, knowing a story, and then figuring out a character and why, the character's relationship with the people that are with him in the script, and why he operates the way he does, and just basically hopping into someone else.
Yeah.
I love that process. So fortunately, I still had that there to kind of still keep me interested and still keep me in it.
It's probably fortunate that you didn't start so early, because we hear so many tragedies of these child actors that start early and the rest of their lives are ruined. Have you dealt with any of that with your students, or maybe try to help them not to go towards the dark side?
Not Not yet. I mean, I've had some students start to turn in their, become their 20s. So most of the students I'm working with right now, they're all in their, they're 12, 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the thick of it. It's when they start to come out of the thick of it, or their series ends and they start to realize that, oh, they're not just going to hop right into another series.
Yeah.
That if you don't really have your stuff together and you don't, and you don't know who you are, that's when they kind of start to fall off and look for other things to kind of validate who they are, or things that kind of make them, what they think make them feel better. But, I've only been doing the coaching for Disney Channel for 10 years. So the only people that I can really, relate to in terms of coming from that and getting into their 20s is like Zendaya.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been coaching Zendaya since she was 13 on Shake It Up. And now she's 23. I worked with her for the screen test for Spider-Man, for, Casey Undercover, through all of Shake It Up. But worked with her for preparing for her audition for Dune, for Greatest Showman screen test. So we still work together. We still have a relationship. But this is just a girl who has just, everything that everybody sees is exactly who she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
She just has herself together. I'm sure she still goes through the angst that you go through when you're 21 and 22 and 23, but then having to deal with all of this success coming at her, but she still just handles it so well. She's just so cool.
You can see that. You can obviously see that in her characters she portrays in interviews that she's done. She's just real cool and relaxed and kind of take it as it comes. And
that's, I think, how it has to be for her, because she's just not someone who's just going to get too wrapped up or too freaked out by, she's just, it's really funny for me. The first part of her name, Zen, is just pretty much
peace.
What she's about. She just does things in a real cool manner, but she also knows what's what. As we've seen, she speaks her mind. She speaks up. She has a lot of things that she's been very outspoken about. Yeah. And she's an intelligent girl.
Yeah.
So she kind of got everything. She got that. She got the intelligence. She got the singing skills. Yeah. She has the acting skills, and then she has, she's a beautiful girl who's 5'11". She walks in a room and people notice,
Yeah.
So she kind of has it all.
Yeah. That's very rare to find in an actor. And
and I tell my clients, because a lot of them want to be, I'm like, look, you're not going to necessarily have that kind of stardom that someone like Zendaya or Brad Pitt or someone like that. To reach that level is just, I say, just reach for the level of working.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might be an actor who just works your whole life.
Mm-hmm. You don't
necessarily have the same, what do you call it? The same, maybe your name isn't as much of a household name, but people know you.
Yeah. And, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a character actor, to being a guest star, being, if it's what you love to do, you will do it, whatever you got. And the more you act, the more credits you have, the bigger roles you'll get eventually. And I mean, Brad Pitt didn't start off being in a superstar right off. He started in Across the Tracks, which was like 88 or 89, very small independent movie.
Yeah, Brad Pitt guest starred in Head of the Class.
Yeah, that's right.
It was his first television role after doing Growing Pains, I think.
Yeah, Growing Pains. He did 2 episodes of Growing Pains.
So,
start small, aim for big. Start small, aim big, and So with Zendaya being, were you on any of those sets as with Dune or the Spider-Man?
No,
No, okay.
no, just part of the initial work.
Okay.
All part of the initial work, which is great. And of course, now she has Euphoria,
Yeah.
and which is
That was an incredible show. Incredible
she got
show.
a Critics' Choice Award for that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's definitely someone I'm proud of.
Yeah, Euphoria. Is there any word if the season 2 is going to be start filming?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I know that that's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe supposedly was supposed to have happened, but nothing has happened for anyone right now. So
No, yeah, true. Okay, well, there's we got some viewer questions. If you don't mind answering some of these, okay.
If I can answer them, I'll answer them.
Okay, Aaron Kilburn from Lake Tahoe. He's asking if Alan, head of the class, if that was originally who you auditioned for, or were you going for someone else, or?
I originally auditioned for Alan.
Okay.
And you know what's interestingly enough, I auditioned for Alan and didn't get a call back.
Oh, ouch.
I originally went in for the audition and it just wasn't having a great day. And I just was off.
Okay.
I went home and that was it. 3 weeks later, my agent calls me and says, hey, you're going back to producers tomorrow on a callback. And I go, for what? And she goes, for head of the class. And I go, oh, they already brought guys to the network for that yesterday. And she goes, yeah, well, they didn't like any of them. They didn't pick any of them. So you're going back. I'm like, okay. So I go in and I make the decision, you know, I'm not going to let pilot season fly by.
Mm-hmm.
Can't afford to go in there and blow it. So I go in much more prepared and I nail it.
Great.
And they go, where have you been?
Are you the same guy?
I go, well, I was here 3 weeks ago, but I don't think anybody remembers. And they go, why is that? And I go, because I just was having an off day. And they go, well, you're going to the network tomorrow. And if you do what you did today, you're going to be solid.
That's cool.
And I went to the network the next day, and it was between myself, another actor named Lance Sloan, and another actor by the name of Matthew Perry. So, and it's always funny because I always had every time I saw Matthew, because he'd come by the set and visit us. He was friends with quite a few of us.
Oh, I see.
And this is prior to Friends. Sorry, yeah. I was the one that got it and you didn't. Yeah. Well, after a few years and he got Friends, I wasn't worried about him anymore. So, but if you've been in this business long enough, you realize that there's really enough for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to stick around long enough for something to stick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The best words I ever got regarding that was from John Ritter.
Okay.
And I was guest starring in a show called The Associates. Really young, early in my career, like I was 19 or 20. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a quick little guest spot role. And John Ritter was guest starring as well. And we were talking and John Ritter said to me, you know, the ones who make it in this business aren't necessarily the ones who are the best. But they're definitely the ones who persevere.
Yeah. Great advice.
Because if you stick it out long enough, you're eventually going to come across the thing that's going to be exactly right for you. And you're going to hit. Mm-hmm. But you've got to stay in this business long enough to let those odds work in your favor.
That's a tricky thing to do. Yeah, I my brother and I, we met John Ritter a couple times. And he was the nicest guy. Yeah. I never met anyone as nice as him.
Yeah.
And, it's such a shame that he passed away so relatively young.
Young and quickly and just.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. But I always took to heart what he said, and I still use it.
Mhm.
When I hear an actor say, well, I'm going to come out to LA and I'm going to give it 3 or 4 years. And if I don't hit, then I'm just going to stop. And I'm like, if you don't hit,
Yeah.
There's hit and then there's hit. And there's just so much illusion to what that is. And I just tell people, look, if you're in it, you better be in it for the long haul, because you might make it big in 3 years and you may not make it big for 20 years.
Exactly.
And it's those who stick around and persevere who give themselves those kinds of odds.
And you can tell the difference between someone who really loves acting and someone who just wants the fame and fortune of it all. Those who really love acting, they have the drive. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to
it's true, because they have that to keep them in it.
Yeah.
Because they love it. And I get that. I get so many clients who are like, oh, I just want to be a big star. Well, why? Because I think it's so cool to be famous and make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you better change those reasons.
Yeah. Reality is going to hit you in the face quickly. If you keep thinking that way, you'll never last.
And so, that goes back to what I told you, which was I got in it for fame and fortune. Hey, this is going to be cool. This is going to be fun. And then when I realized it was hard work and it wasn't necessarily as fun as I thought it was going to be,
mm-hmm.
I realized I really had to find a way to love it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't love it, especially with as hard as it is, you're not gonna last.
And that's it. That's exactly
you're
right.
gonna end up with an ulcer.
Okay, our next question comes from Elizabeth Hawkins from New Mexico. Says, this is a good one. With Rain Pryor being included in head of the class, she asked if there was any stories that she told about her father, Richard Pryor, the famous comedian. Did he visit the set, or any funny stories that she shared with you guys?
Well, I don't remember. Richard never visited the set, from what I can remember. I would have remembered that.
Mm-hmm.
But she always spoke fondly of her dad, and I'm sure she told us stories at the time, which I've forgotten by now. But those are the situations where. And we all knew how he, we knew of his career. We knew who he was. But that was just something you always let that person share that information if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But, she talked about her dad at the time and, their relationship. And
was it a little intimidating knowing that someone who comes from such a famous father was joining the show? Or did you guys connect real good?
She was young like we were. So, you think it's cool. I mean, her dad's Richard Pryor. You never know if they're going to come through with the same skills. Turns out Rain Pryor is talented.
Yeah, she's a great actress.
Yes, she's a great actress. She's a great singer.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's had a one-woman show.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. She's talented.
Yeah. Okay, we got I think this is we got a couple more here. Jason Morgan from Simi Valley, California, which is actually where Paul and I we lived there for about 10 years or so.
Okay, I'm in Burbank, so not far.
Yeah. So it says, big fan of Karate Kid. Did they send you to karate class or karate boot camp or to learn karate or anything that nature?
Going into the film, there were a few of us who knew karate. Billy Zabka learned for the movie. Chad McQueen, Steve McQueen's son, he had already been doing karate for years. And Ron Thomas, who played Bobby, he was a black belt already. Billy learned. I don't really remember if Billy had ever done karate prior to the film. I myself had not. it was really cool. About the first month before shooting, we had it was like camp for us, because we would show up at the Warner Brothers Ranch, and the first hour or two was the five of us with a soccer instructor. We would kick around the soccer ball like we did in the high school scenes for a while. Then they had the motorcycles lined up, and it's like now an hour or two of motorcycle riding.
Did you do those? Was that all you in the motorcycle? Was that you on the motorcycle, or was that a stunt double?
During the movie, it was both. Anytime we had to do any kind of heavy duty riding, it was the stunt double.
Okay.
But peeling out of frame or coming into frame, it was always us. But then we'd go back to the studio and we would have karate practice. And we had karate practice every single day till the very end of shooting. And even if there were days where the Cobras didn't have anything to film, we still had to drive to set wherever they were filming. And we still had to have karate practice with Pat Johnson every day of shooting, whether we were shooting or not.
Okay, we got two more questions. Okay, Alice Cat from Colorado asked if there'll ever be a head of the class reunion show.
I hear that there has been some talk about it. And I think there's something that's possibly going on, but it doesn't involve the original cast.
Oh.
From what I know, I'm just catching little snippets here and there, and I think there's some talk about a head of the class, but
Like a reboot or?
as of right now, it doesn't have anything to do with us.
Oh, okay. Okay. And
Which I don't know if you would call a reboot or a complete redo.
yeah, there is a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Kitty Black from Missouri asks if there's any advice you'd give to young actors just starting out.
You know, for young actors starting out, and I do realize it, and I have so many that reach out to me on social media, Instagram. You know, a lot of them are also in towns or in places where there isn't the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say, well, get involved with the local production. You know,
Yeah.
I would say for anyone starting out to get as much experience as they can. Do plays in school, read, find out about what acting is all about. Get involved in your local community and see if there's a theater there that they can get involved in local plays. That's what I did. You know, I just got involved with the local Pasadena theater and started auditioning for small roles. You know, a walk-on, a kid going, hey, you know, hi, Mr. Johnson. You walk off stage and then that's it for the night, you know. Just to get as much experience as you can. And then if you are in a city where you can actually go to a school that teaches acting to younger kids or teenagers, get involved with that.
Yeah, I know there's most high schools, especially colleges, they always have some kind of acting theater group going on.
Yeah, especially colleges, you know, having acting programs. There's so many of them out there.
But that's what me and my brother did. When we started making short films is, you know, we didn't have any money. We didn't have any agents or producer stuff. It was pretty much self-financed, and we would go to the colleges and put on their bulletin board, looking for an actor, looking for 5 actors for this so-and-so, and or looking for a DP and so forth. We got a lot of response. So, you know, go to those digital bulletin boards, go to the college, high school, and don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, and then I tell actors, again, coming out of high school, that's a different story. Some people want to go to, you know, they want to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. They want to go to Juilliard. You know, those aren't cheap.
No.
They're big acting colleges, so to speak. But for young kids starting out, school plays, local community theater, get involved and learn everything. Learn lighting, learn the switchboard, learn stage managing, learn tech, learn it all.
Yeah, that's another piece of advice that someone gave us is, if you go in set to be an actor, but you're on the set, you're learning, you're surrounded by all these people who have so much more talent and experience than you do. Learn from them. And maybe you'll find out acting's not your thing. Maybe you'll find out that you want to be a producer or an editor, or even the guy holding the boom mic. You want to learn everything.
Yeah,
about
there are a lot of opportunity in the entertainment industry, and there have been people who have come out here to become actors, and the next thing they know is they find out that they got offered another kind of job in production, and they love doing that. I myself, I've been an actor my whole life. Now, granted, coaching is kind of parallel with acting, but I've created a whole other career for myself that has really been just as successful as my acting career. So who knew?
Have you ever had anyone say, okay, I've been through this, acting's not for me, and I'd rather go to do something else?
I have. I've had some actors who have started out and they just, it's just not for them, or they don't like the audition process.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like sitting around and waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah, that's the killer.
Call back, and then a call back, and then another call back. And then, did you get it? No, no, I didn't. I was, second runner up. And they see that that's great, you're second runner-up, but being second runner-up doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, but that's the game you play. It's not just...
That's this business. That's just this business. And I tell people early on, man, if you can't handle that, and you don't want a life of having weeks or months where you don't work or you don't get paid, then you better do something else, or you better find, and this is one of the biggest things I tell all actors, especially young actors, find something else you love to do. Find painting, throw pottery, become a gym instructor, teach rock climbing. Find something else that you can do on the side that not only can you then pay your bills, so that when you're going on an audition, you are not desperate because you need money to survive.
Yeah.
You have that gig on the side that you enjoy to do, that you can do on the downtime when you're not acting.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Brad Pitt when he was starting to get acting, getting these little gigs like on Growing Pains, head of the class. He was also stuck in a chicken suit selling chicken nuggets or El Pollo Loco.
Corner of La Brea and I want to say Hollywood Boulevard.
That's it.
El Pollo Loco.
Yeah. So, you always want to have a side job to pay the bills while you're struggling. I also
know he's very into building and construction.
Oh, he is.
He himself ever did that, but I know that was something, it's just so important, not only just for acting, just for yourself as a human being. To grow and to experience and to do other things. And I just get so frustrated when I hear a person say that all they want to do is act. It's great. It's great if they just have such a thirst for being on stage and doing all that. And that's fine. And if they can pay their bills that way, then great. But you got to have other things that you enjoy. You can't let this business be the thing that validates who you are as a person. Because if you're only booking 10% of the time, then 10% of the time is the only amount of time you're being validated. You've got to find other things you enjoy that make you feel good about yourself.
I don't know, was there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about?
You hit a lot of it.
Okay.
And I might have parlayed into some things that you were going to hit on.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, because you're just you know, you hit one thing and it sparks, just for me it does, it just sparks a whole gamut of memories, you know, of memories and opportunities, and some of the amazing people that I've gotten to run into in my life and people I've met. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. I'm like, heck, I've met Jimmy Stewart and Carol Burnett.
Wow.
You know,
What was that like, meeting?
people that are legendary.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest ones I haven't even mentioned yet were when I was 19 years old, a friend of mine was a writer on one of the Bob Hope specials.
Mm-hmm.
And I went backstage with him and met Lucille Ball.
Wow.
That to me is like one of the
That's-
biggest, most iconic people I've ever met. And then the other one was Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, wow.
I've been in a lot of circles that she traveled in, and was invited to a lot of the benefits that she did. But then a friend of mine was good friends with her, and he called me up one day, and I had plans to have an Oscar party for my neighbors here at my house.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Kenny calls me up and says, hey, I want to invite you to Elizabeth's house for the Oscars. And I go, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor. And I go, hold on, let me cancel everything. And I got to go to Elizabeth Taylor's house and watch
man.
Academy Awards.
Gee,
And here
what
I
was-
am sitting here watching the big screen in Elizabeth Taylor's living room, and she's sitting right next to me.
What was that even like? I mean, I can't even wrap my head around.
It's definitely a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, at the end of the day, you know that all of these people are just people, and they just have the gift of being in entertainment, just like you got to have that gift. But to be sitting with her and just, you know, making comments back and forth about, oh yeah, that's Julia Roberts. Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, she looks great, doesn't she? Yes, she does. You know, and I made a comment to her about her socks, because they were like stockings and they had little bumblebees embroidered on them, you know, and I made a comment about them. She's like, aren't they fun? You know, and she's sitting there wearing the Hope diamond that, you know, Richard Burton had given her. It was and it's still, looking back, it's still mind blowing.
Yeah. Very surreal. You know,
Yeah.
My favorite movie of Elizabeth Taylor's is Giant with Rock Hudson. I love that movie. I watched that movie over and over again. And, you know, she's done so many unforgettable roles. But to me, that was actually the first movie I saw her in. And so I guess I'm biased because that would be always my favorite movie, being my first movie I've seen her in. But I just can't imagine that.
If I moved my computer, does it throw the show off if I move it all?
I don't think so.
Only
You can-
because I'm going to show you, as I'll just stay right here,
Yeah, that's fine.
in my guest room, I became the owner of this.
Oh, wow.
And that is Elizabeth Taylor on the set of Giant.
Giant. Yeah. Wow.
And it came to me from a gallery that I guess it was at Warner Brothers.
Mhm.
And the photographer of that photo had never released that. He never released that photo.
Oh, wow.
And he was going through his archives and he found that negative. And he only made 100 prints of that photo. And it's number 17 of 100.
That's priceless.
So they were selling it at a Warner Brothers gallery sale, and I got it.
Wow. That'd be one of my prized possessions.
And there was a lot of times where I thought about maybe asking my friend Kenny if he would have her sign it. But for just various reasons, it just never happened. But I still had the opportunity of watching the Academy Awards with her in her house. So.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. It's like,
that was pretty epic.
Yeah, be telling all my friends about that.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are like, you've got to write a book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different tales that I can tell.
With Jimmy Stewart, what was that like? Did he how long did you
it was just, it was brief, but just those moments are just moments that are just embedded in your memory. Where you've had so much respect and you're in so much awe of not necessarily the celebrityism of the whole thing, but just of what the body of work that the man has done. Same thing with Lucille Ball and Elizabeth Taylor, and meeting Carol Burnett. It's just, you have just such a crazy respect for who these people are, and just to be able to have a moment of, hello, how are you? It's an honor to meet you, and have them say some things to you and ask you how you're doing and how's your career doing, and what are you up to these days? It's pretty special.
Yeah, that's like when we met John Ritter. It was just very brief. We just shook hands and said hello. Yeah, and didn't I? Let's see, when I was at Hollywood Video when that was a thing, and I saw writer David Koepp. If you know who he is, he wrote the screenplay Jurassic Park, and he directed a number of movies. And I recognized him, and I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He was like, "You know who I am?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen you before. We never talked, but I've seen him, so I know what he looked like." And he was I guess they just stopped filming. They just struck the set to Panic Room. David Fincher filmed The Panic Room.
Right, sure.
And so he was talking about that, and he said that to this, back then, this was like 96, I think. And he said, to this day, I'm still starstruck when I'm on a set and seeing all these people behind. And it was just really cool. He was really relaxed, and we talked for maybe about 30 minutes while we're in between the aisles of at Hollywood Video. This was in Simi Valley. And
that's so great.
It was really cool just to talk to these people. And you're like, these people aren't stiff-necked, and they're not rude. These are just regular average people, just like yourself. Yeah.
And I always say to my clients, it's like, they're just people, and some of them you may meet may not be so nice, but it's really awesome when you meet them and they turn out to be just really great, down-to-earth, awesome people.
Yeah.
I did Circus of the Stars in '83 after I had done Otherworld, and Burt Lancaster came out to watch us film or rehearse on the trapeze.
And I was going to ask you about that, actually.
I'm looking down, and I'd kind of got wind that there was going to be a special guest. I'm looking down, and I'm standing way up on the pedestal, getting ready to fly, 30 feet up. And I'm looking down, and I look and I see our instructor, Bob Yerkes, walk out with someone. And I say to my friend, Lori, who is that? She goes, that's Burt Lancaster. Like,
oh, no.
Wait, hold me up. Hold on to me up here, because I'm going to go down.
As if you weren't nervous enough being up there.
Oh yeah, that was a whole nother. That's a whole nother. I actually have that posted on my. I actually have that posted on my YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And if you just put in Tony O'Dell, Circus of the Stars, that whole entire show, that clip comes up.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that was with Ricky Schroeder. He was
Ricky Schroeder and great guy, and one of my best friends, Lori Hendler from Give Me a Break.
Yeah. Now you're bringing me back memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I got a slew of them.
Yeah, you should write a book. You should. I'd buy it. Well,
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Just so many stories. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you. We've done some interviews in the past. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but
yes, I have. Okay. That's when I watched it. You sent me the link, and I can tell within a couple of minutes whether I'm in or I'm out. And I watched it, and I was like, oh no, this is cool. I go, I'm in.
That's great. That's a privilege to hear. Yeah, this is actually our first video interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we see.
Now, I think you're going to have some editing to do.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Make sure you only keep the good parts.
Yeah. Before this, we used Skype, and for some reason they wouldn't let us record the video, or there was some weird thing going on about that, and so we had to use like a third-party app and all this stuff. And we're like, this is just too much work, so we just decided just to do voice recordings. But yeah, so you're privileged to have our first live video interview.
I have, well, that's awesome. And I have a great pitch for you. I almost had a glass of wine right here. I was going to have like a glass of wine, but then I know you said it was kind of a family show. So I thought, I don't know if I should have a glass of wine,
Well, that's fine. The wine's fine.
And I thought you could call it the show Actors Whining.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. There's actually
You're welcome.
There you go. I'll give you credit. There's a guy who that we follow.
I might have actually come up with a name for a great show.
This guy, Rob Meyer Burnett, he has a YouTube channel now. He been in the business for decades and decades, and he has a show with him and his girlfriend called Whining About Movies, where they drink a bottle of wine and discuss the movie one of them hasn't seen. Wow. Usually his wife hasn't seen the movie, and so they'll watch it like a few hours before the show, and then they'll discuss it while drinking the bottle of wine. When the bottle of wine's finished, then they'll stop the show. So yeah, whining about movies. So
that's pretty funny. That's good.
Yeah, whining about actors. There you go. Yeah, that's good. We'll give you credit for that.
A lot of them can whine.
Yeah. Fortunately, we haven't had bad interviews or interviews go that way. We've had good fortune with good people to interview with.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Actually, we're having can't believe we booked this. We booked DP Dean Cundy. He was DP for Jurassic Park, John Carpenter movies like Halloween and Escape from New York. Yeah, and we're doing that next Wednesday. I was like, okay. We just casually asked him on Instagram, and his wife replied back, and we were like, I can't believe they actually said yes. He's like one of the most prominent cinematographers in the business. Been around for 40 plus years.
That's outstanding. That's excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for joining us for this interview.
Well, thank you for having me. Do you and your brother normally do these together?
We kind of switch. Well, the last few ones he's been doing, I'm more behind the scenes.
Well, I was your first on camera, but so was your plan to actually have both of you there?
Yeah. We were both gonna host, do the interview together, and then his sinuses just got the best of him, so he's whining in bed right now.
But not whining in the way that I was referring.
I don't know. He might be.
Tell him I said that wine may not be good for his sinuses if he's actually having an issue.
Yeah, true.
So, well, thank you both. Thank you both. And thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
And it
Thank
gave me
you.
something to do during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought about that. We're like, it's COVID. They're pretty much free. They have pretty much have free time now, so probably
Yeah.
grab
And
them.
you're able to do some editing in this, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We use Adobe Premiere.
So if that's the case, I'm going to share this with you, and you can put this in at any place
Okay.
of our conversation. But I want to share with you something that has been very special to me. And I'm going to move my camera here, because I should say my computer, because I want to share with you something that Pat Morita gave us all at the end of shooting Karate Kid.
Okay.
And it's this beautiful photo album. And I'm going to open it, and I'm going to get to the first page. And it says, "Happy holidays to you and your family for whole life. Signed, Miyagi." And then inside of it, he put photos.
Wow.
Himself and Ralph. I'm trying to tilt it down.
Yeah, we can see it.
And then other photos of me and the guys. It's just really, really special.
Yeah.
John Avildsen and Jimmy Crabe.
Wow.
And he just put this whole album together, and it just countless pictures of moments, and me, of course, striking Ralph, or actually that was Miyagi at the fence.
That's
So,
amazing. Wow.
I just thought this was a really cool thing to share, and it also was great because it actually helped keep the computer propped up.
We killed two birds with one stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
That is
share that with
amazing.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is really cool. He must have been Pat Morita. He must have been such a nice man. on
Awesome
set.
man. Awesome man. Miss him a lot.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Thanks so much. And it was fun going down memory lane, and you guys take care of yourselves, and we'll be chatting again.
Yeah, we will. We'll do this again. Yeah, it's been great hearing your stories and hearing about your career and bits and pieces of your life. Yeah, anytime you want to do this again, we just hit us up. We will definitely do it again.
Thank you. Would love to.